Welcome to the Clean Slate with your hosts, Daniel Garza and Carson Phillips, providing you with movie news, reviews, and more. Sit back, relax, and don't forget to go to the concessions to get your popcorn and drinks. For your entertainment, this is the Clean Slate Podcast.
Welcome back to the Clean Slate Podcast. I'm your host, Carson Phillips. That's Daniel Garza, our other, more handsome host.
Thank you.
A little self-deprecating humor to make you feel better about yourself today. And
all right,
sorry, weird mood here on the pod. But today we have another great movie that we missed in 2024. Yep. We didn't get to watch this one. I'm a little bummed.
Yeah,
that it wasn't in theaters, so there's some scandal with this. We'll get to it.
All right, cool.
But Juror number 2.
Juror number 2. All right, so here is the logline for Juror number 2. While serving as a juror in a high-profile murder trial, a family man finds himself struggling with a serious moral dilemma. One he could use to sway the jury verdict and potentially convict or free the wrong killer. I lost my breath there for a second.
Ooh. I know, that was, you were like choked up. Because this movie's so like
it's just all the
emotionally layered. Oh god,
we're both sick, by the way, guys. So just bear with us. We sound pretty. Oh, I sound pretty bad. Carson just randomly starts coughing.
I'm on the other end of it. You know, I just cough up blood every now and then. So we're chilling.
Yep. All right. Cool. So give him a little premise of this movie. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. I'll take and explain.
Yeah.
What you need to know, but it's kind of tricky because I don't want to spoil anything. You know, like. So if you guys want to go into this blind, it's on HBO Max.
It's probably the best way to watch this movie, is going into it blind.
Yeah. But anyways, Juror number 2, this comes from director Clint Eastwood, putting him out almost yearly at this point, or every other year, a new film. And this is kind of sets up like a bit of a mystery. We have our juror number 2, Nicholas Hoult, or played by Nicholas Hoult, who is selected for jury duty. He doesn't really want to do jury duty. He has a very pregnant wife in a high-risk pregnancy. So there's a little bit of pressure there, but he's waiting to see if he can get out of jury duty. He does not get out of jury duty. And turns out he may be connected to the case. This is a domestic abuse case, or murder case, technically.
Yeah.
Where a woman is killed after a drunken argument at a bar, and her body's found on the side of the road, or really a little bit further from the side of the road. But there's this whole discussion of who did this. Is it somehow involved in Nicholas? And he has this moral dilemma of, I can go ahead and say this guy's guilty and not worry about it, or I can stick to what I feel like is true, where this guy may be innocent and maybe I'm not innocent, and go from there. So it's a whole moral dilemma, and it's I don't want to give away too much more than that, but it's really interesting.
Quick little note here, guys. Just before we jump into it, Nicholas Hoult is the main character. You've seen him in Nosferatu. We just reviewed that movie, as well as
Beast.
He plays Beast in the newer version of the X-Men movies. So really great actor. We got Toni Collette, who has also been in the Knives Out movie. I almost said movies, but she's in the first one. And then we got J.K. Simmons, which I wish he had a bigger role in this, but he doesn't. And then Zoe Deutch, who plays the wife. Things
recently.
Yeah. So pretty strong cast here. Also Kiefer Sutherland. But yeah, let's go into our likes and dislikes.
Yeah, as far as likes go, I think really this film has like you said, like a really fantastic cast, and Nicholas Hoult kind of steals the show for me. I mean, he's the lead. Does that make sense that he steals the show? But his like emotional performance has a lot of layers to it that I think is not something I've seen from him before. Like we just watched Nosferatu, and he doesn't really have as layered of a performance in that as he does in this.
True.
Not that he's bad in Nosferatu, but I found his performance in this to be very captivating. And then I was kind of convinced with that scene in the garage with him and his wife discussing like something from his past that he has to bring up. I thought that was really like well acted, I guess, emotionally. I also feel like the premise is just like stellar. Like this is such a good premise. Like as soon as you know, like once you get to like a couple reveals in, you're like, oh, I'm hooked. I have to know what's happening. I could even see this being like a true crime documentary. Like,
for sure.
This is something that would like captivate you. So that really carries. I think the premise really carries the film, in my opinion. Not that it's a bad movie by any means, but that setup is so good. It's hard to really mess it up.
Sure.
But yeah, those are pretty much my main likes. I'm overall did enjoy this film.
So a couple cool things we discussed was Nicholas Hoult and Toni Collette. They actually played in a movie 22 years prior to this, which was called I think it's About a Boy. Or
Have you seen that?
I have seen parts of it in film school, but
Okay.
no, I haven't seen the full thing. And then also, what was my? Oh, yeah. So this movie it's not based off of 12 Angry Men, but it has a lot of similar themes to 12 Angry Men. So if you don't know what that movie is, it's a pretty world renowned movie about a jury. Some going in to just convict this guy, this kill. They think it's a killer, but then there's like one other guy who is like, actually, I don't think he is the killer, and then it sparks this whole debate, makes them 12 Angry Men. So when they're doing the jury selection, the scene in this movie is almost word for word the exact same as it was in 12 Angry Men, which is kind of funny because I thought it was like a little bit of a nod to the movie. Like, I feel like you can't get away from a jury movie without it being 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, everyone's going to think about that movie. I
Yeah.
mean, if you've seen it.
For sure.
I guess.
So, actually, did you know in 12 Angry Men that, what's his name? The Piglet is one of the main characters in...
The voice actor for Piglet?
Yeah.
Who is Piglet in it? Do you know?
He's the short little scrawny guy in 12 Angry Men.
Is that why he's Piglet?
He's got like the fedora cap on that he wears.
That's fun. I want to rewatch it and see, because you know how sometimes voice actors kind of just sound like a deepened version of their characters?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'll have to check that out. That's
Yeah,
fun.
no, he's really good in that movie. Anyway, so yeah, similar to for me in terms of likes, the premise of this movie is so good. I walked into it blind. I obviously knew it was about some sort of jury, just by the name, and then
What?
what plot twist? And then obviously it got really high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, which is kind of always a decent indicator for me of if I'm going to watch it or not. And then Clint Eastwood directed it, so I was like, you know what? Let me just add this into our watch list, and we'll see. What shout out Wetzel's watch list. There you go.
It's your boy.
So anyway, I was actually really surprised by this movie. I immediately texted Carson. I said, dude, the premise of this movie is really, really good.
It was. I was like, oh, it better be. And then when I started watching it this morning, I was like, holy crap! Like,
Yeah.
I'm hooked.
Yeah, no, it's really intriguing. And for me, I think what makes it so good is because it really raises this strong moral question of, would you turn yourself in, or would you stay silent and just send this guy to
Go to Mexico.
to jail? So yeah, no, it plays along on all those little triggers. You think it's gonna happen, but you don't know, and so you're just along for the ride. But we can discuss that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, on that note, it is an interesting look at like the American justice system versus like how we as individuals view justice, because I think those are two different things. So it really examines that idea, and I think Clint Eastwood is doing some kind of discussion here about like what is justice exactly? Like, is it the same standard across all people? Would Nicholas Hoult, who's essentially an innocent man, if he was to go to jail for something like this, would that be justice? You know, like, it's kind of interesting to think about.
For sure.
And that makes it, a worthwhile film.
Yeah. I definitely love the discussion that it brings, because once you're talking to the jury, you really kind of hone in on what all the other jurors were like thinking about, because a lot of the movie you're focused on Nicholas Hoult and what his thought process is and how he's trying to avoid being recognized or even all this type of stuff. But then once you get into the actual jury room, jury discussion room, you find out that a lot of these other people have reasons for why they think he's guilty. And then obviously Nicholas Hoult is most likely the one who isn't, or is the one who committed the crime. We think. We don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
That's what you said.
But I just like
the movie's telling us that, but you think it. It's just because you like him as an actor. That's what it is.
I don't know about that, but
It's like
I mean, I do like
confirmation
him, but
bias.
I don't think that's the reason. Okay, cool. So let's get into dislikes of this movie.
I gotta say, the scenes in this movie are filmed ugly. Like, it's not even ugly. They're just filmed bland.
Yeah.
I think the camera work in this is missing a style, and it feels like, obviously, a court case film is going to be a little bit procedural in nature, but it feels beyond, like visually it feels like they could have done something just a little bit more. Like even 12 Angry Men, I think is relatively set in one location and looks more interesting than this film does. And we've seen other jury films in recent years. Like, what was the Chicago 7, 8, or 9, one of those numbers? It looks visually more interesting than this does. So I just think, maybe a little bit more inspiration on that part. And then maybe flesh out some of these side characters. Like, J.K. Simmons is not really in this film that much, but I would have liked to get to know his character a little bit.
Yeah.
Or even Nicholas Holt's wife. I feel like we could have got to know her, especially because a lot of the threat of what's looming over their family would affect her and their unborn child at the moment. And I think it could have been interesting to see that. So yeah, that's what kind of keeps this movie down for me. Is it's just doesn't fully deliver, in my opinion. And those are like the biggest issues for me.
Yeah. It's actually pretty funny because I agree with you in terms of the filmography of it. Like, it's not really impressive. But however, on the flip side of that, I thought that the story was gripping enough to where I wanted to keep watching. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? Because you're really already provoked in the way that is making you think about, like, what you would do, like, in that position. And that's where I'm kind of like, I didn't notice it. I totally agree with you, though. Like, it is a pretty boring style. But for me, it wasn't
I could have got
a big
out of jury duty.
Oh yeah, for sure. I get out of jury duty all the time.
My wife is so pregnant. What are you talking about?
Also, the judge was crazy. I know. She was like, "Well, we won't keep you a minute longer." It's like, what? Okay.
I would have been like, "Can my wife call me and I can leave if she goes into labor?"
Yeah, a lot of the times they do allow stuff like that. So.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's why I kind of thought this was a little bit ridiculous.
I was at the bar the night it happened, actually.
I mean, to be fair, this thing like exactly happened to me in terms of not like murdering somebody, but like
I ran over a woman.
I got called into jury duty, and Rebecca was, I think, like she was about 24 weeks pregnant at the time, but the case was going to be during the time that she was going to be due. And then I just told the judge, I was like, "Hey, Your Honor, like this, it's my first baby. My wife, she will be due during this time, so I would like to be dismissed." And I was like, I also am the sole breadwinner of the home, and sole provider, I think is what they call it, not breadwinner. And,
he should have used that. He didn't use any of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. So anyway, yeah, we don't really actually find out what he does, do we? Of like work.
He's a writer.
Oh, he's a writer.
He's a
right.
writer
Yes,
or something.
You're right. Okay, cool. So other than that, though, the dislikes for me.
Dislikes?
Well, hold on.
Oh, okay.
The dislikes for me is kind of the ending. Some of the writing of it was just a little bit clunky. Like it almost like
rushed, maybe.
Yeah, like there's an end scene where the district attorney comes out and she sits with Nicholas Hoult, and they kind of have this discussion. The discussion is obviously kind of leading towards the fact that she knows that he probably did it. He knows, obviously, that he did it, and now they're having this, like, I guess, empty conversation about, like, but this man who is actually a good person would be put on not death row, but, like, life in prison, and he doesn't deserve that. And it kind of reminds you of Doubt, the movie that we looked into last year.
Love that movie.
Yeah, so it felt like it had that good quality, but then at the very end, they do another scene where he's at home with his family, and then you get a knock on the door, and then it's her. And he opens it, and it's just like, it ends there. And for me, I don't know.
We're starting the Avengers Initiative.
Right? It's just Samuel L. Jackson.
DUI people on our team.
Anyway, so it was just kind of one of those things that was like, I didn't know if that scene was necessary or just maybe tell us, like, what happens. Because I think we've gathered the discussion enough to already present a moral dilemma here. Let's just see it play out in a movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I felt like was missing at the very end, is I wanted the resolution of it. Sometimes I feel like movies do this a lot to where you don't get the resolution. It's like left up to the interpretation. But for me, I'm like, no, tell me what it is. You've already been spoon-feeding me this movie the entire time. So, like, tell me what the solution is.
Yeah, this was like a spoon-feed heavy movie.
Yeah,
like,
for
there's
sure.
not much left up to interpretation, although I don't know what...
Except for my
Clint Eastwood thinks about
interpretation.
justice.
I think my interpretation...
Daniel has a take.
I do have a take. I'm not going to stand by this, but to be fair, when they are replaying the history of it, They show him in the bar. They show him in all these things. He hits something. It never shows her. It never shows any of that. He gets out of the car, looks over the bridge, doesn't see anything, which is where they find her body, and there's nothing there. So, or he can't see. So for me, I'm like, you know what? They technically didn't tell us if he did do it, or like if he.
Who did it then?
I don't know. They made a plausible
Reasonable
argument. They made a plausible argument that she could have slipped and fell. So.
Yeah, right.
I mean, she was wearing those high heels.
Clavicle at number 7-8, and then her whatever at.
Anyway, so I'm not going to die on that hill, but technically.
Have you seen the show Jury Duty?
No, I think you told me about it on Prime.
Oh, you have to watch it. You would love it.
You told me about it. I haven't seen it.
I kept thinking about that show the whole time, and that did take me out of the movie on accident. So.
Anyway, okay. So quick question before we end this: what would you do?
Oh, I would lie. I wouldn't tell a single soul. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, the dude had like a freaking tattoo of like a hate group, like a gang.
It was a drug gang.
Like a drug group or something. I'd be like, yeah, screw this guy. He's bad. He's not going to be better.
So Carson sounds exactly like all the other jurors. I'm stuck still. I probably wouldn't have turned myself in, but Rebecca, I was sitting with Rebecca, and she right, sometimes when a movie is really good that I'm watching, she'll end up just sitting in here and we'll watch it.
That's what Alyssa did.
And so I filled her in on a little bit, and she just watched the last 40 minutes of it. But I asked her, I was like, what would you do? And then she was like, I don't know. She said, I think that I would pray really hard. She's like, but if it was you, I would tell you to turn yourself in. I was like, of course you would.
But not herself? Dang, dude.
I told her.
That's crazy.
Well, she didn't really propose that question to her, but I just said, what would you expect me to do? And she told me that I should turn myself in. I was like, that's crazy. I was like, this is why I don't tell you
knowing
things.
Knowing you would not turn yourself in. Knowing
I don't
me,
think so.
I probably would.
I don't think
I wouldn't do good in prison.
I don't think you would.
I have too big of booty cheeks for prison.
That's crazy. No, you don't.
Okay, question though.
Okay.
Flashback circa 2012.
Okay.
Your senior year of high school, I think.
2013 was my senior year, but okay.
Flashback 2013. You and I took in a speech and debate class together.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
And you locked out a teacher, and we covered it up as a class and blamed it on someone else. That none of us. Okay, I don't think he watches this. None of us liked this guy. That's essentially what this was.
No, it wasn't, because that's not exactly what happened. I locked out a student
by Mr. Couchman, and I was like, nah, dude, it was the other guy. I saw him go up. And I knew for 100% sure that you did it. And you didn't turn yourself in.
No, 100%. I said I closed the door behind me because I closed it on somebody that was walking into the classroom. I 100% did lock the door. But I just said I closed it.
You didn't say that.
Yeah. And then, but apparently what had happened is that I accidentally locked out a teacher, and she gave us all Saturday schools. And but it was crazy because everybody came to my defense. I didn't even think a lot of these people liked me in school, and
we all saw you do it.
Yeah, everybody saw me do it.
Well, it's because we didn't like this teacher, and we didn't like we didn't like this other guy.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, it was actually insane the amount of people that took a fall from me. It was like at least 12.
The most immoral thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it was crazy, but. You know, it wasn't like we sent this person to life in prison, so.
We did, actually.
Yeah.
You got executed last week.
That's crazy. I don't think we can say that. Anyway, guys, well, this is Juror number 2. It is on HBO Max. If you want to go check it out, please do. It's a really good movie. I would honestly give it about a 3.5 out of 5. That's what
I would give it.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
I'd give it a 3.
I was kind of toying with 4, but I think 3.5 is properly seated there. But yeah, it's a great movie. Go check it out. It's relatively clean. It's PG-13, so for all those people that kind of get a little antsy about the movies that we review, this is a PG-13 movie, and it's got
getting antsy.
Older people. So it's got a good moral dilemma in it. So go ahead and check it out, guys. We got one more movie for you in the month of January before we move on to Found Footage February. Pretty much, it's just like 31 Days of Halloween, just like mini version.
No, there's gonna be like one found footage comedy.
Did they even Project X?
Oh gosh, we should.
We honestly should. That's a great movie. No, there's nothing there to review in Project X.
Yeah, I'd be like, this was trash. But
anyway, guys, we got one last good movie. It's an A24 film. You won't want to miss it. So check in with us next week. And we got, again, like we've been saying, we've been stacked this entire year of movies that are coming. So
stacks on stacks.
Stacks on stacks. So if you haven't yet, guys, go follow us on YouTube, TikTok while it's still alive, Instagram, and then like, comment, subscribe. We also have our audio.
Red Note.
Yeah, Red Note. We also have our content on pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So go rate us 5 stars, and we will see you next week for the continuation of movies we missed in 2024. Peace.
See ya, beautiful.
That's a Clean Slate.